I mentioned Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez probably likely for SummerSlam. Before then, though, we were going to get Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan on the show. Because Liv attacked Rhea Ripley last week, and her kind of brawling with Rhea at ringside was what caused the Judgment Day to lose their tag team title opportunity against Sami and Owens in last week's main event. So they were going to go one-on-one here, but Rhea brutally attacking Liv Morgan before the match could get underway. So it seems like, a lot like with Kevin Owens, Liv Morgan is currently hurt. And it seems like she might be out for a little bit longer than Kevin Owens. She has a shoulder issue. Now, I don't know if it's the same shoulder that she was out with a couple of weeks ago. Remember, she had to be written out back in May, which is why they relinquished the tag team titles, her and Raquel, because she had a shoulder issue. So they had to relinquish the tag team titles. It wasn't as serious as they thought. They came back in June. She was back within 3-4 weeks. They won the titles. They lost the titles, and now she's injured again. So this would probably be a good time for Liv to get hurt, so Raquel can kind of focus on Rhea one-on-one. They can have that one-on-one feud for the next couple of weeks, months, whatever, and then Liv can be built back up as a challenger for Rhea down the road. I said this to Mr. Marceau last week. I would have no issue, honestly, I mean, this is just me, with Liv being the one to beat Rhea Ripley, for the sole reason that Liv was the last person to beat Rhea Ripley on Raw almost a year ago, over a year ago, back in May or June of 2022. I don't think Rhea Ripley's been beaten one-on-one since then, or pinned since then, or whatever the case might be. Not only that, but they were former tag team partners. Rhea turned on her. They were the final two and the first two in this year's Women's Royal Rumble match. They have great chemistry. Now, I know you might want to wait until, like, Becky's... I mean, I personally... This is just me. Bianca's also a possibility. They could do Rhea Ripley and Bianca at WrestleMania. They teased it on the Raw after WrestleMania this year. It seems like Bianca might be busy with whatever's going on in that women's championship picture on that show, so I wouldn't bank on that being the match. And it would also require, I would assume, with both women being on different shows, for one to win the Rumble and go to the other show. I don't want either of them winning the Rumble again this soon. Rhea Ripley just won it this past year, and then Bianca won it back in 2021, only 2 years ago. So I wouldn't want either of them winning the Rumble anyway. So I wouldn't really count Bianca as a likely opponent for Rhea Ripley next year at WrestleMania. Becky and Rhea might be the WrestleMania match. You could keep the belt on Rhea until then. I just don't think every run needs to be like a year long. I mean, Bayley already had a year-long reign with that same championship that Rhea Ripley holds right now. Now, that was when it was the SmackDown Women's Championship, but it carries the same lineage. Bayley already had a year-long run. Bianca just had a year-long run as Women's Champion. Becky had a year-long run as Women's Champion a few years ago. Don't even count the men. I mean, don't even get me started on the men and all the year-long title runs that they've had in the last couple of months and years and whatnot. And that's fine, but at the same time, it would be nice if we got like a short run. And Liv did have a short run last year as the Women's Champion on SmackDown, but it wasn't really overly eventful. She was a victim of the change in management with Vince kind of losing power, Triple H taking over. They didn't really know what the fuck to do with her. The Ronda Rousey feud sucked. And hopefully now she's kind of back on the ascent here. She's still over with the audience. Despite how she's been booked in the last year, she's still very much over with the audience. I would give her the championship. I'm not saying that she should beat Rhea Ripley, but I also, like I said, would not be upset at it. I just think it makes sense given their story. And I'd rather, like I said, would rather have Liv be the one to beat Rhea for that championship than Becky Lynch. Now, I know Becky hasn't been champion since Mania of last year, so that's even longer than when Liv was champion. It's been a longer period since Becky was champion than Liv. But I just feel like we've seen Becky in that spot for so long now, on and off, for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, that really since she became SmackDown Women's Champion in 2016, that it should be Liv's time. I mean, Liv's been on the main roster forever. I mean, she's been on the main roster for 6, 7 years now. But she deserves a real run as Women's Champion. So I'm just saying, I just think it would be a fine route to take if they gave the championship to Liv, if only for a month or two, and they put it right back on Rhea. I mean, that wouldn't be as long as when she was champion last year. She held it from early July to early October. But that run was terrible, through no fault of her own. Again, it was the management change, it was the booking. She and Ronda just didn't really have a lot of great chemistry. Her and Rhea, we know, have great chemistry. The story makes sense, and people are still behind Liv. So honestly, again, I'm not advocating personally. I'm not saying that Liv should be the one to beat Rhea Ripley for the championship, but I'm just saying I wouldn't be opposed to it, and it's something to keep an eye out for, because after this attack, Liv should come back as a fucking bat out of hell, wanting revenge, going right the fuck after Rhea Ripley, not wasting any time with anything else, New side of Liv Morgan, more serious, more, fed up with her bullshit and whatnot, going right after Rhea Ripley. I like Raquel. Raquel's not fucking interesting. She's not really over on her own. Again, not really her fault. They haven't really done much with her to kind of showcase her personality or her in-ring ability or anything. She really hasn't had a lot of memorable moments on the main roster so far. She's been a champion like 4 or 5 fucking times with the tag team titles, but she hasn't really done a lot otherwise as far as, being built up as a singles competitor. So her and Rhea is a SummerSlam match, not the biggest attraction, but it works for now. Like I've said, I just think it serves nicely to kind of, as a setup feud, as a setup storyline for Rhea and Liv at some point whenever Liv is ready to come back and she's ready to return and clear to compete again. So just something to keep an eye out for in a couple months from now whenever Liv comes back.